Well, welcome to the show.
This is our view from the bench.
Well, welcome to the show. I'm Brendan, Jerry Jones paternity tester.
And I'm Corey, officially licensed by Fanatics, and happy Thursday and happy Leap Day, friends.
Hey, happy Leap Day, man. I like it. That's true. Once every 4 years or so, right? That's what
We
it is,
made it.
29.
Another 4 years.
I like it. We got another episode for you here today. How you doing, bro? Good?
Pretty good, man. It's been an easy couple days here since we did our last episode, looking in good to a weekend and then a long Monday, but we'll get to that later in the day.
That's right. We got a couple things here for you today. Again, we're going to try to switch it up a little bit and keep it short. So we're going to jump into some awesomely terrible Major League Baseball jerseys, man. This is the talk of the town, it seems, right now, because, well, obviously spring training just started. Everybody's getting out. They got the pictures already. They're taking everything. They got their home runs. The grass is freshly cut and nicely lined. And here we are talking not about baseball.
No, we are not at all. You know, it's kind of weird. This is the time of year where it feels like the first day of school and everyone's taking their school photos and we're like, ooh, look at the new jerseys and the new cuts.
Yeah.
But we're not excited about it at all anymore.
No, dude. The jerseys are pretty freaking trash, man. I don't understand what happened.
People just think about the money and don't think about the product on the field itself and what the players are going to wear. It just comes down to the money. I think that's what always happens.
Yeah, I mean, I know one of the things that they were talking about was that they were looking to try to make them like more athletic, right? Like, because honestly, we have MLB jerseys. I have a couple of them now. One of them is a little bit lighter. It's the Serpientes one that I have, but the other like official Diamondbacks jersey I have, I'll give it to them. It's pretty heavy material. You know, it's got the nice stitching and stuff like that. So, but like, did they put anybody in these jerseys at all? Because it's not necessarily like the fit and feel, although it's not necessarily getting the best praise from the players. But what's really the problem is how it looks. It's been coined as a handful of things, right? Cheap, see-through, all sorts of crap. No.
Yeah, it's been bad, man. It almost feels like there's been multiple players quoted. I mean, I don't have all their names because a lot of them trying to go unnamed so they don't get in trouble by the league. But feels like just like really cheap. Feels like you got it at a swap meet. Or I know there's been talk about like one of the big players is big about their pants is Walker Buehler is really famous for having his like super tight pants when he's on the mound pitching, and they're not allowing them to customize the pants to their liking. They're just giving them a basic standard pair of pants, and you got to play with what you got. And then if those guys aren't comfortable, especially pitchers, those people are even more about like routine and everything has to feel correctly. And if they're not being able to do it and customize it the way they want, it could affect them. Hopefully it does for Buehler because he's a Dodger, but that's a whole nother thing.
I know we're not even trying to be rude to Walker, but I mean, hey, in general, I'm rooting against you just because of the uniform you've got on. Well, we're going to put on the screen here for the YouTube audience. We've got a couple pictures that we've kind of put together to kind of give you guys a visual about what we're really talking about here. And as they come up, there's a couple. Shohei Ohtani is obviously probably the most famous, popular person in all of baseball, almost all of sports right now, to be honest with you. Dude is insane all over the world. We've got a couple other people on the screen as well. But you can see, I mean, to me, the biggest one is the guy in the Guardians jersey on the left on the screen here. You can completely see his tucked-in shirt, where the jersey ends, his under shorts, which could maybe even just be underwear. You can see it by Nike. And you could basically make out his entire body under his pants.
Yeah.
It's just bad.
Yeah, it doesn't look good at all. And I know initially MLB came out and said, oh, you're not thinking about they're in studio lights. It's part of the reason because, they use these big bright lights for these big photo sessions. But I saw another video or picture of Xander Bogaerts out on the field at spring training stretching by himself on the grass. And there's no studio lights out there. It's just the natural light from the sun. And I can see just as much as I can in these photos. So I don't know what happened, but it always comes down to people at the top making decisions that ultimately are more money for them. But they're not thinking about the people who actually have to wear them or deal with them on an everyday basis and use them. That's always what happens when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Which is not true. I mean, what you said is true, but it's not just because you think it's best for, the bottom line doesn't mean it's
Yeah,
best for the product. In fact, most times it's
exactly.
not. And you can see here from the screen that it's pretty cheap.
Yeah.
MLB, like Major League Baseball themselves, has kind of defended the uniforms, calling them, quote, world class. They
Ugh,
go on to
that's
quote themselves here. In acquiring Majestic and its MLB uniform manufacturing facilities in Easton, Pennsylvania, which have been making player uniforms for nearly 2 decades, Fanatics, who is making these, has consistently produced world-class uniforms, including every Nike branded MLB on-field jersey and all City Connect gear since 2020. This is what MLB Senior Vice President of Global Consumer Products, Dennis Nolan, told MLB.com earlier this week. World class, huh?
Yeah, I
What
don't see
world?
it. Yeah, and the fact that again these players are coming out with quotes and not putting their name on it because they don't want to get in trouble. Like one of them, I think the consensus is they're not too great. I know a lot of guys don't really like them. Another one, it feels like a knockoff jersey from TJ Maxx. Another one, even though I thought the last few years they haven't been as stretchy, but definitely this year you can notice the fabric is just a little lighter than we're used to, but it's not necessarily better. So again, these are the guys that have to wear them 150 plus times, and depending on how many days you play and
Mhm.
injuries, but like that's a long time to get. It kind of reminds me of, I don't know if you're a Seinfeld fan, but back in the day there was an episode of Seinfeld where George works for the Yankees and he tells him like, why are you wearing polyester? You guys should be wearing cotton so you can breathe, the fabric that breathes. And then a couple like days later in the episode they show the Yankees come out in the field and their jerseys have shrunk because they got washed. It's like they don't think all the way through the details of what they're actually doing.
No, that's a really good point. That's a really good point. It's weird to see though that the Major League Baseball is like still standing behind it, even though you could see all of it. I know that one thing that like you just said, the quote was talking about how things have changed. It's been lighter and thinner, but not necessarily better. Well, that's the weird part about this is Major League Baseball is also sticking to the fact that when they, in a quote, they told the Wall Street Journal earlier this week, the uniform pants have the same material and thickness as the uniform pants last season.
No, that
Well,
there's no way. I
how?
didn't see anybody's undershirts or underwear last year or even the last 10 years, whatever long we're talking about. I don't ever remember seeing. The only time I've ever seen a player's anything underneath their pants is when they've accidentally ripped it or torn, or the famous one, I
Yeah.
can't remember the guy's name who was on first base where he forgot he was on the field and he pulled his pants down to fix them and then pulled them back up. Like that's the only time that happens. Otherwise, I don't remember ever
Through the
seeing anything
pants.
like this before.
Yeah, it's really bad. The guy next to Shohei, it's not as blurred on this picture, but it's so thin you can kind of see his stuffs.
Yeah, it's not good.
Um,
Now,
it's just
hey,
everywhere.
they're trying to add sex appeal for the fans out there. I guess
Ah,
that
I
is a
didn't think about it like
bonus,
that. Yeah, I
but
didn't think
that's
about
not
it like
what we're
that.
there
Yeah.
for. Like, we're there to watch
Not at
the game
all.
and not focus on
Not
their
at all.
pants.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And I couldn't agree more with you about, the actual players giving their 2 cents. When the guys who are wearing it, like you said, day in and day out, don't like it, it's not good. I went into a kind of a rabbit hole on this. I know I talked to you about it a little bit before, and it just seems a little bit off. There's a couple of things that are kind of detailed that I went in, like I said, kind of really down the rabbit hole. But before I jump into it, I want to make sure that we show that video where the announcers for the Mets are kind of talking about it as a kind of a preface to set up some of my next points. Can we
Yeah,
roll
we
that?
have to show this. Yeah, Ron Darling, who is the color guy for the Mets and played for them. I believe he was a pitcher back in the 80s for them. He goes into detail talking about it. But yeah, let's go ahead and show that clip.
Okay, cool.
And I don't really know that much about the pants. You can probably speak to that better. All I know is that the jerseys.
You're telling me I can talk about sheer pants better than you?
Well, you can talk about uniform pants and how they fit and what they're supposed to be like. And as a fan, as an observer, what I notice immediately is that the names and the numbers have shrunk to Lilliputian size.
I mean, you spend your entire life hitting in the cage, running drills, whatever, so you can have a big name in the back and a big number. And very difficult for me to see him on the field right now. I mean, Mikhail, he's too big of a guy to have those little letters.
Right.
Come on.
Well, it seems as though what's happened is that in an effort to make the jerseys more athletic, thinner, stretchier, lighter weight, moisture wicking, all those things that make them good athletic wear.
Yeah.
that in trying to reduce the weight, they changed the size of the lettering, that you don't want to have big embroidery like that on a lighter, stretchier jersey.
I mean, that really reveals the difference.
Right, stands out in a much more emphatic way.
I mean, you could see it clear as day. The guy who had the jersey that he bought a couple years ago with DeGrom on the back is a lot different than the Pete Alonso he's wearing on the field. The guy in the stands looks nicer.
Yeah, I just wish they would have done a side-by-side split screen with it to make it even more noticeable instead of cutting back and forth. That would have been even better. But yeah, the fact that he's even talking about like that looks really good. I can read that. I can't read the one. And the picture, he mentions he's such a big guy that the numbers are so small. It looks even weirder. Like, you imagine Randy Johnson out there back in the day and his 51's like this big and he's like 6'10"?
Yeah, I could not, because that's not correct. It shouldn't be that way. Again, though, I did a little bit more digging, and here's what I want to kind of let you know.
You did a lot of digging. Don't lie, sir.
Okay, you're right. I did a lot of digging. There's a couple notes on here that it looks like they want to they're trying to kind of fix it. Okay. The executive director of the Major League Baseball Players Association says, I think the information and the experience that the guys have had on the ground is speaking for itself. A lot of those quotes that you read earlier, I guess, are kind of making their way up. This is from, oh my gosh, I didn't write his whole name. Something Clark. I think it's Ryan Clark.
Oh, Tony Clark? Is it the MLB
Tony Clark,
guy?
yes.
Yeah. Former D-back,
yes.
by the way.
Oh, I know that name. Okay, nice. So he goes on to say in The Athletic, he says, we're hopeful, at least based on solid public comments at this point, that work is being done to mitigate it being a topic of discussion any longer than necessary. So the players are making it known to the association, the fans and everybody are making it known to Major League Baseball, and according to the director of MLBPA, they're looking to do something about it. So
they need to.
But there was two notes, okay? The reason, so I was digging, is like Fanatics is terrible, and we'll get into Fanatics. I got some stuff to say about Fanatics in a second.
I'm with you there.
But, and I'll let you kind of go on your little spiel too, because I know you got something to say. But everyone's kind of pissed off at Fanatics. Why would Fanatics do this? Now, as far as the clear pants, I won't speak to that. But apparently, Eduardo Perez, who's an analyst on Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN, said that he got some information that this was actually Major League Baseball's decision as far as the names and stuff on the back. Kind of. Okay. Apparently, Nike, so it's partially their fault too, has changed the way that the jerseys are made and set up. And the what's the word? The dimensions are actually smaller on the collar area in the back, where the Major League Baseball logo used to be. So now that it doesn't fit, Major League Baseball had one decision and two options. Either make the logo smaller to fit on the collar or move the logo down. Well, they elected with move the logo down. We want it just as big. It needs to be 60 millimeters, not 55. Damn it.
Oh my gosh.
So by doing so, inadvertently, right, it brings the logo down. Then that means the name has to come down, which means it needs to be smaller because it needs to be closer to the top, which means the number needs to be a little bit. Everything just trickles down, and it basically kind of started with Major League Baseball. Basically, they're saying, "No, we want our logo the same size." So figure out how to make that happen.
I mean,
Isn't that crazy?
It's the logo of the league itself, so you want that to be prominent. But also, the fans are not buying the jerseys to have a big logo of the league on the back of them. They want the name and the player number on there. And the fact, and in that video we showed with the Mets too, the numbers are really close together. It seems like there's not a whole lot of space, but again, that goes to not having as much space to work with and trying to keep everything centered. And there's some teams where the names are arched. The arch seems to be much more prominent now than it used to be.
It's like a circle almost.
Yeah, it's really weird. Can you imagine Saltalamacchia back in the day? How would that look?
Bro, or Goldschmidt and stuff? Yeah, Saltalamacchia. That was a long last name. I remember that.
14 letters, longest name in MLB history, if I remember correctly.
Who was there was another, man, I can't remember his name. I'm going to forget. Let's move on. However, I did find a couple of articles that says that this can actually be fixed, and two teams have actually made it a point to have it done. All you have to do is ask. The Royals, apparently, according to Paul Lucas of UniWatch, like Uniform Watch, he noticed that larger lettering on the Royals' new spring training jerseys that makes it look kind of like the same. So he reached out to them and they asked kind of like, what happened? Apparently, they just lobbied Nike and Major League Baseball and said, can we use the old lettering sizes? Because they, quote, feels like it strongly maintains the full-size lettering as a way for the fans to connect with the team's players.
Exactly.
And they said, yeah.
Exactly.
So now they have it back to normal. So they have the normal size. So theirs looks more normal. It still looks abnormal because it's thin and it's different material and it feels like ironed on, not so much stitched on, all that kind of stuff. But the size and the stuff it's exactly the same as it was before. Cardinals actually did something similar to keep the chain stitching that's on the logos in the front of their jersey.
Okay.
So yeah, apparently you could reach out and kind of get it. So if that is the case, why isn't all the teams? Again, maybe something like what the MLBPA director kind of said, saying, okay, it's being worked on.
Yeah.
But people have already found kind of loopholes. Props to the Royals and good luck to their fans getting normal-ish looking jerseys next year.
Yeah, that's crazy. The fact that two teams were able to just ask and they're like, "Oh yeah, okay, no problem." Like again,
Sure.
why didn't the league just step in and say, "Well, why don't we just do this for everybody? What's the big deal if it's only two teams?" Like, and if you're the manufacturer, that's even more annoying because now you have to focus on two teams have to be completely done differently than the rest of the 28 league teams in the league.
Couldn't agree more, but that's where we're at. Asking you shall receive, apparently. So Royals and Cardinals got it going on. Everybody else is here.
Doing.
Yeah, I never even thought about it like that. That's very true. They're both in the state of Missouri.
Yeah, weird.
Okay, well, hey, I guess they know what's up. That's good for them. Good for them. So I kept digging, and I'm just like, okay, so this Fanatics thing, right? Because that's really kind of who is, in what our opinion is, kind of messing it all up. Who is Fanatics, and why are they everywhere? Okay, literally. So I started doing a little bit of digging. They are in the NBA, the NFL, the NHL, Major League Baseball, NASCAR, Major League Soccer, Formula One, NPB, which is the Nippon Professional Baseball League over in Japan, the NCAA, the PGA Tour, UFC, among a handful of other leagues, as you nicely coined yourself this afternoon, officially licensed by Fanatics. Now that doesn't necessarily.
They didn't even ask me; they just did it.
They just did it. You're just officially licensed. That's what it is. Now, a lot of times that could sound cool. I mean, you Google any jersey, right, and it's coming up. Fanatics here, buy this here for any sport. But just because you're everywhere doesn't mean you're great.
Facts.
And I'll get into how they're kind of expanding recently, and there's some things, but they're already known to not have good quality clothing. Yep. The biggest part that I read in my research here, and this is where I want you to expand where you can, is when they were named to take over the National Hockey League's jersey, they already produced off-ice jersey stuff, not necessarily official. I think you correct me on this, but they're basically slated to make the official stuff as well next season. I saw a handful of just problems, from things being spelled wrong to the wrong numbers on people's jerseys, all sorts of things. Please give me your personal insight as to how the Fanatics has affected your world, bro.
So, having worked for the Ducks since 2007 as a part-timer to the point that I am now as a full-time employee in the merch department, I've seen the changes from Reebok to we had CCM back in the day, and then the last 7 years we've been with Adidas for the authentic jerseys, and Adidas has done a fantastic job. I'm really sad that their contract is up and they're not coming back next year. Like you said, Fanatics is taking over. Now, Fanatics does all like the team issued stuff in the locker room, stuff like that we don't sell a lot of in the store, but we do have a few items. A big part of the problem with them is at least my boss has told me that she doesn't like to order a lot from them because they essentially make the same thing for every team, and they just plug and chug your team logo and colors. They don't give you the opportunity to kind of create your own special things for each individual team. So like my director and my other managers order from other companies and local companies, especially like we do a lot of stuff with Violent Gentlemen for the hockey stuff. They allow you to make your own designs and work with them to make a design and it's a collab more than just like, here's what we have. Do you want it or not? And then they're not really trying. They're just plugging and chugging a logo and color scheme and just printing them at max. And then again, still having issues with them. Like we get stuff all the time where the team's name is spelt wrong, which Anaheim, it's not that hard. The E and the I are always switched the other way, or the wrong logo is on our team name. It's I don't understand, but again, Fanatics to this point has taken over. Like we just did the UFC event. You mentioned there with them. The previous time we worked the UFC event, Fanatics had nothing to do with them, but this time they came in and they had all this signage we had to put on the stand that says UFC store sponsored by Fanatics or a Fanatics experience. Like they are everywhere and going to continue to take over. And all the fans that I have, like season ticket holders and regulars that I've known for a long time having worked there, everyone is buying as much Adidas jerseys as they can this year because they're so afraid of what Fanatics is going to do to them next year and moving forward. I don't know how long the contract is with the NHL. I'm sure it's like 5 or 6 years. That's typically what you do. But everyone is afraid of what they're going to do to the jerseys next year for the NHL.
It's really bad. I mean, they like you said, spelling stuff wrong.
Yeah.
It's this. There's a team name is something else. That is ridiculous. That'll. There's only a set amount of teams,
Right.
but even players, bro, it's hard. Dude, you know how much these players have to work to earn their way onto a freaking NHL roster, and here
Right.
you are putting their freaking name backwards. You know, I saw a hockey jersey that was signed. The person was funny. Like, luckily, I don't remember who the player was, but they had the name spelled wrong. Like the name, like the E was at the end as opposed to like two letters instead before the end. So he signed it, and then he put down below in quotes the wrong way that he spelled it. You know, like, oh yeah, this is who signed it. So it's like, you can't even spell people's names right. Like, what are you guys doing? So
like I
it's
said.
not looking good, bro. And you said a lot of people are trying to get all the old stuff. I don't blame them.
Yeah.
But as I kept digging, I found more. And I think this is a little bit of why Fanatics doesn't care. Okay. In March of 2021, Fanatics secured a $320 million funding round, followed by another $325 million funding round in August of 2021. Basically, just bringing in private equity to just get money. It initially brought their evaluation up to $18 billion as of September 2021. I think they're now worth around $31 billion. Okay. During the latter funding round, Fanatics also announced plans, and this is where I think the details are starting to kind of make click, to evolve into a global digital sports platform through expansion into new verticals, including NFTs, trading cards, gambling and gaming, ticketing, media, and more.
Oh my God.
So they don't care about the product because everything in the future is going digital. They're trying to get a jump start by getting every single license they possibly can. Who cares about the merchandise? Yeah, we sell some stuff, sure, that could supplement some of the costs that, blah, blah, blah. But they're just trying to get as much into their space as possible and digitize everything, and just basically be the kings of the digital sports world.
And then eventually be a monopoly and have every sporting company or industry under their umbrella, essentially.
Yes.
That's
to add.
I have an example of this too. Literally today a customer called and he had a Ducks jersey he ordered, and the lettering that he got on the name on the back was falling off. So he's like, "Is there something you can put can you put it back on?" I said, "Well, where did you get the jersey lettering from? Because if you didn't get it from us, there's nothing I can do." He's like, "Oh, I ordered it from NHL.com." So it's like Fanatics, cool. I go, "Yeah, unfortunately I can't because they use a plastic, really thin, like sublimated material. We use a tackle twill 3-layer. So if I try to repress it, I could burn that material and ruin the jersey, and then I can't replace it because it's not our inventory." And the guy's like, "Oh my God." And I was like, "I'm really sorry." He's like, "No, I'm not mad at you. I'm just mad at NHL and Fanatics because their website sucks. Their customer service is terrible. And now I have a product that wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. And there's nothing I can do about it," is what you're telling me. And I was like, unfortunately, that's kind of what I'm saying.
Damn, real life example, literally right here.
Yeah. We keep a sample of the Fanatics lettering on a jersey in our store. So when customers are like, "Damn, that's expensive to get a name and number put on there," I'm like, "Let me show you why." And then I show them the Fanatics lettering, and then I show them ours, and they're like, "Oh, okay, never mind."
Okay,
and then
they
pay the $100 to get a name on because they realize in the long run it's gonna be better and worth it than it is getting the crappy shit that's not gonna last.
Yeah, you couldn't be more right. And when you're spending hundreds of dollars already, you might as well get the right one.
Exactly.
So the last bit of article that's kind of like a little bit of more proof into what I'm talking about. This is actually a very recent article. I think it's at least this year, and I think it's only a couple days old. Fanatics just recently fired about 100 employees, noted to be apparently VPs, directors, and managers. A Fanatics spokesman issued a prepared statement to the journal that wrote this. "As we continue to evolve from a merchandise company," did you hear me? "Continue to evolve from a merchandise company into a global digital sports platform, our organizational structure should naturally transition alongside it. This is a strategic restructuring of our Fanatics commerce business to make the fan experience even more central to everything we do." First of all, you just said the fan experience sucks.
Yes.
Okay. As part of this restructuring, we uncovered a very small number of positions that we were no longer in alignment with our strategic priorities, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. It's a very fancy way of saying, screw these people. We don't really care. We're trying to save some cash. They're literally telling you that they're transitioning from a merchandising company to a global digital sports platform. And here are all the leagues saying, "Oh, you'll make our stuff." What?
Yeah. Everybody's
They're telling right
jumping
to our
on board,
face.
man.
They're not doing it. They're going digital. That's what their plan is. They don't care
Because
about
what
the merchandise. They don't care about any of it.
What ultimately is going to happen is they're going to be a monopoly, and every fan is going to have no choice if they want to buy sports merchandise, but to buy it from them. There will be no other options to do so. So that's what's going to happen.
Sadly.
It's only going to be them. And if you can bitch and complain all you want, but where else are you going to buy it? We are the ones that have it.
Fanatics.com, baby. Woo!
The worst.
Yeah, to me, this just really looks like a sports apparel monopoly that they're getting to, right? Going all out on the media portion while saving money on the apparel portion by having it be cheap materials and poor designs. So
that's exactly what's going to happen.
It's crazy. We'll keep it in baseball, though. Last topic for the day here. Scott Boras. This is kind of another big topic that's been going around the Major League Baseball stuff, especially since spring training has started. The uniforms have been taking precedent, sadly, over the players, but that's why we started with it. But something else that happened is Scott Boras, very well-known agent, most of his big-name clients can't seem to get signed. Why is that, man?
It's one of those things, too, because every year that there's like a big free agent at the end of his contract, they're like, oh, well, maybe he'll re-sign with the same team. And then the first question we all ask is, well, who's his agent? Is he a Boras guy? And if he is, he's not going to re-sign more than likely. He's going to go to free agency for sure. There's no extension going to happen. There's not even going to be a talk of it. You can offer it all you want. It's not going to happen. They're not even going to think about it. They're going to
even if it's a good extension, like if it's a good offer. I mean,
yeah, it doesn't matter. And Boras is all about getting the most money, which I understand. That's what an agent does. They're supposed to get you the best deal and the most money they possibly can. But at the same time, he gets a percentage. So the more he gets the player, the more he gets himself. So like that's kind of part of it. But also, as a sports fan, if a guy who's on a team or a girl, whatever sport it is we're talking about, is on a team that I'm a fan of and they're possibly going to be a free agent, I shouldn't know who their agent is. I shouldn't know in sports who the referees' names are and why they're like Angel Hernandez in baseball. As soon as I say that, we all know he's the worst umpire behind the plate. We should not know that. That should not be part of the game or the sport. And it's the same thing with agents. The people who take
Scott Foster hates Chris Paul.
Yes, that's a fact too. if the people who are the agents represent these players or even their family members, whoever it is, I shouldn't know anything about them because they're not the focus. The focus should be on the athlete themselves. And the fact that we know who Boras is and all the stuff he does, that's not a good sign. But hey, he keeps making money and getting guys paid. Now, ultimately, Bellinger was one that got signed. When the offseason started, he wanted $250 million plus for 7 or 8 years. He ended up with 3 years, $80 million with an opt out after every year because if he has a good year, he can opt back out and then do this all over again. But I think you and I were talking about that when we were prepping that the Dodgers have no players on their team represented by Scott Boras because the Dodgers don't just throw out money. Now, they did this offseason to 2 particular players, but they don't typically do that. They are very analytical and smart about how they use their salary cap and their money. Even though Guggenheim Group is worth multiple billions of dollars, they still are very smart and analytical about how they fill their roster. And
they spend money, but they don't throw it away, to your point. Yeah, exactly. I mean, Mookie Betts is not cheap. Freddie Freeman ain't cheap. Obviously, Ohtani ain't cheap, but those are legendary players that are hard workers, day in and day out. They shut up and get the work done, all that kind of stuff. They don't have Scott Boras as their agent.
That's a big plus.
Yeah. I mean, he's been doing this for almost 40 years now. I think he started in like 1980, right? Mm-hmm. He's even termed as the super agent, right? Yep. He's gained billions of dollars for his clients and probably hundreds and hundreds of millions, if not for himself. But I couldn't agree more that this is starting to be like kind of weird, and maybe MLB teams are kind of starting to stand up to him. Now, more times than not, it actually ends up working out for the players and Boras's favor. As most teams either eventually cave to the demands or another team steps up to kind of take the player at whatever that asking price was. There's a couple examples that I have here that I'll go over quickly. I want your feedback on any ones that you got here. Mike Moustakas, after hitting 36 home runs in 2017, was waiting for a nice big contract. For some reason, nobody wanted to give it to him, and Boras held tight. Only got 1 year, $6.5 million that year. But after 2 years later, somebody eventually owned up and paid Mike Moustakas a 4-year, $64 million deal that he and Scott Boras were waiting for.
Okay. Still not that crazy amount of money, but still more than he got.
Not that great. Exactly. JD Martinez, right? He signed, he waited after his huge, I think it was we traded him, right? Or did we let
No,
him
we
go?
got him at the deadline. He had a huge second half of the season. He hit 5 home runs in a game at Dodger Stadium against the Dodgers and helped the Diamondbacks make the playoffs and became a free agent. And of course, we had no money to bring him back, and he waited out for a deal. That's how he ended up in Boston.
That's where he waited. Okay, so he waited. So Boston didn't give him a deal for a long time. A lot of these people's, bro, as soon as the season begins, right? Like it starts again. And I don't mean as it calendar. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Calendar year. As soon as the season calendar starts, people are getting signed. Left and right, bro. I mean, we've done a couple episodes. It's been 3-4 weeks now since people were just starting to drop like flies and sign with teams. And these people are still out here. Huge names. JD Martinez, who used to be one of them, finally ended up getting a 5-year, $110 million at the end of February. Well, that's kind of where we're at right now. 5-year, $110 million back in the day. That ain't bad. Jake Arrieta, great pitcher, signed a 3-year, $75 million deal in March.
Yeah, see, camp's already
started.
Not
even March yet. Point. Yeah, but as far as it works out, and the biggest one here is actually Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper didn't have a contract until late February. As we all know, he's sitting on a 13-year, $330 million contract in Philly. So more times than not, it works out for Boras ones. There's one instance that an article brought up that it actually didn't, which sucks because it kind of hits home a little bit for me. The Weaver brothers. Jeff Weaver waited for a long-term contract, as Scott Boras told him to, and it never came. And he was basically out of the league. Yep. His brother Jared, the better one, no offense to Jeff.
No, but Jared definitely was better.
Yeah, he was informed, and maybe this is the part where Scott Boras learned, okay, never mind, that was a bad idea. He was told by Scott to sign the extension and not hit free agency in whatever year that was. He signed 5 years, $85 million. And Jared Weaver was probably, I would say, a top 5 pitcher at that
time. Yeah, for sure.
Dude was one of the best pitchers in the league.
He was pitching for the Angels when I was working there, actually. So this happened, I don't know what year this was, but it had to be between 2007 and 2012 because those are the years I worked at Angel Stadium for the merch side. Weaver signed that extension and everyone was shocked. Again, he's a Boras client. Like, there's no way he's going to sign an extension. But part of it, too, was not even really Boras. It was Jeff. He went to Long Beach State. He's from Southern California. He had a wife and a kid here in California.
Jared,
playing for the Angels. Like, he didn't want to leave. He didn't want to test free agency and make it a spectacle. So part of the reason they got that deal done was Jared basically told Scott, like, no, I want to be here. Get it done. I'm not going the route that you typically go. So that's not even a win for Boras.
Okay.
That was him stepping up and saying, no, I want to be here because this is where my family is. This is where I've grown up and this is where I was drafted. Everything is in Southern California for me and I want to stay here. So that was a big part of the reason that even happened. It wasn't even Boras.
That makes sense. Yeah, it's crazy, man, because the talent that he's got is they have to be signed on a team, dude. JD Martinez has to be playing this year.
Yeah,
right?
He had,
Cy Young Award winner
last year.
Yeah, Cy Young Award winning 2-time now. Blake Snell sitting unemployed. He just won it. He didn't win it in 2015 and was trying to make a nice comeback 9 years later. No, he just won just now.
Yep.
He's still currently the reigning NL fucking Cy Young.
And not only that, he was the ERA leader in the NL last year. Not that he just won the Cy Young. He was the best pitcher when it comes to ERA in the entire National League last year on a team in the Padres that didn't even make
the National League. True. But playing the Dodgers, playing us, and the Giants were in the run for a long time.
Yep.
Colorado can hit, especially when you're playing in Colorado.
Absolutely. And not only that, he started in the AL where he won his first one with Tampa and came over to the NL and still was able to do that on, I think, his second year in San Diego. So, again, it doesn't make any sense that he's not signed. Now, part of it is, again, he wants a 7-year deal. Dude, you're 31 and a pitcher. Nobody gets 7-year deals as a pitcher, especially when you're over 30. Like, most pitchers don't go past 35 these days and actually are very good at that point if they're still around, especially if they're not a reliever. Starters over 35 is not a common thing in baseball. Verlander and Scherzer are one of the few, and they're not good the last couple of years, and they're 40, basically. So I don't know what they expect.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. I obviously think they're good enough. Do you think the Bellinger, what's the word I'm looking for? Not cessation, because they seeded with the 3. They were like, fine, we'll settle for 3. That impacts other Boras clients saying, no. You gave Cody Bellinger only 3. We'll take 3 or 4 years too.
Yeah, maybe,
so?
but Bellinger's also under 30, I think, and they gave him an opt-out after each season. So really it's a 1-year, $30 million deal. He can opt out. And then the second year's 30, he can opt out, and the third year is 20, and then he'll be a free agent. So it's really kind of a 1 year with a player option, essentially. And again, I think part of the reason that Cubs were able to do that is because he was there last year. It's not a new team.
Yeah.
It's very rare that Boras guys get the big deal and re-sign with the team they were just on. So it's kind of a different situation, I think, for him compared, because JD Martinez is like 35 at this point and just a DH. Like the joke is when he went to Boston, he didn't even own a glove because he couldn't play the outfield anymore. His only job is to be a DH and bat.
That's pretty crazy. He can still hit a ball that well.
He's pretty damn good at it too.
Yeah. I think it's pretty crazy, man. They definitely need to get signed. Jordan Montgomery, right? Freaking just won a World Series, bro. Like, and what the heck is going on?
In the World Series run all the way through the playoffs, I believe, for Texas.
Yeah, he was their best pitcher, starting pitcher.
Yeah. Again, doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Yeah, it's weird. So we'll keep you guys updated, obviously, as Boras possibly inks more clients. He's got big names, so, Blake Snell's going somewhere. You're definitely going to hear it from us. But we just find it super weird. And for any kids out there, if you want big money, maybe call Scott. If you want to actually get signed, maybe find another agent.
Play baseball because they're all guaranteed contracts. That's the big thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a great point.
And also too, like, you got to think as a player, like, you get to the point now where when going into March tomorrow, if you're Blake Snell, like, what the hell am I doing? Why I'm training by myself. I'm not in a clubhouse. I have no camaraderie going on right now. That's got to be just a very weird situation, which again, that has to go into like your mentals, right? Like we talk about this every time, and this leads us into Corey's mental health minute for this episode. Like, you got to be able to be mentally tough to get through all these things. And for this week's minute, I'm going to have the screen up here now with the quote, "You're stronger than you realize. And if you need any help and want to look into more information, you can go to growtherapy.com to get some help." But the person I wanted to focus on for this one is Dame Lillard. We talked about it about a month ago or so that he was having a tough time in Portland, in Milwaukee, but that's because him and his wife are going through a divorce, and it's a new city and everything. Well, he just got talked to by SI's Chris Mannix, talking about how he's been lonely in Milwaukee. Like, he's been doing the same thing every day. It's, I go to the gym, I practice, I go home, I go on YouTube and watch like boxing videos, and I hope that there's a new one to watch because I've been watching the same ones over and over. But, he doesn't have his family there. They're all in Portland where they kind of built their lives. I mean, he was there over 10 years, and now he's in a completely different place and trying to figure it out. He doesn't have anybody, like his best friends are in Portland, so he can't have anybody when he comes home like, hey, let's go out to dinner, or the kids are there for him to like be a dad for that moment. Like, they're all in Portland, and because he's in Milwaukee, it's not like it's a quick jump around. That's a big difference.
Yeah, it's literally the United States, basically.
And, it's just hard for him to get through it, but he's obviously, it helps that you're with Giannis. I got to think that guy's always lightening the mood and helping it make it a little easier, but still, you always got to take care of yourself. And he's quoted saying, I'll be fine. I'm grown, but it's definitely lonely, and I'm filled up by those people. Like, I miss my family. So again, just want to always take care of your mentals and be aware of, even if you don't have anybody around you like he does, you got to find someone to talk to and get through it.
I like that, man. Yeah. And that's kind of like what we talked about last time too. Just having somebody there, man. If you ain't got anybody with you, DM us. We'll talk to you. We'll be there for you, man. No worries.
Oh, yeah.
Or
ma'am. Like all our followers and all our friends.
Exactly. That's a good one. I like that. Thank you. I like that. Well, we appreciate everybody here. Thank you all for stopping by. You can catch any of our episodes. Where can they find them, man?
Yeah, if you want to listen to the audio version, you can find us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or if you want to watch the video version here on YouTube and see all our slides and videos that we show and not just hear them, you can find it on YouTube and just search on all 3 platforms, Our View from the Bench.
Also, don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at OurViewFTB. If you're here watching this YouTube video, hit that like button for us if you like what you see. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss it. Smash it. I know. I keep saying hit it. How boring. How freaking boring.
Like you always say, it's free. It only takes a second or two. And then if you get the notifications of now that we're doing more episodes on a regular basis, you can know when they're there to listen to them or hear them.
Exactly. We want to get in depth and kind of talk to you guys, get you more information than just the headlines. And that's why we wanted to dive in. So thank you all for stopping by. Appreciate everybody's time. And thank you for seeing things from Our View from the Bench. I'm Brendan.
And I'm Corey. Like we always say, enjoy the sports until we talk again.
Peace.
This was a Sycamore Fourth Studios production.